Cody Stovall stopping by from Locked On OK State. Cody, how you doing?
You know what? I'm all right now, Mark, because last time we talked, we were undefeated. And as of right now, on Wednesday, week 2, we are still undefeated. So all is good at the current moment.
So you're probably not surprised by this. With all the college football I watched, with 5 consecutive days of college football, I did not see one play of the Oklahoma State-Tennessee Martin game. Not a big shocker there. Now, I did see 27-7. I did look at the stats, but 27-7 does not sound like a obviously, it's not a close game. Not stating that. Does not sound like a resounding dominant effort over an FCS opponent.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously you would like to run away with a ball game like that, but there was some encouragement. I will say that you missed the fireworks of Haas Haney. Those first 3 drives, Mark, Oklahoma State fans were going crazy. We got our guy. We got a dude. We have a shot. We can give Oregon a run for their money. And then he breaks a bone in his foot. But the Zane train is now pulling on station. He's been a big deal since he got here, right? You know, Mr. Nebraska, Player of the Year, Gatorade Player of the Year. Still holds the most yards of all time in Nebraska State history. He's a big get, right? So 6'3", 220 pounds. He did play RB3 last year in the spring. So he has the capability to run, and he did showcase that a little bit against UT Martin. But overall, yes, Mark, it was pretty underwhelming of a performance. And 29.5, that is so disrespectful, Mark. That's like an FCS odds line. It's crazy.
It is, maybe not to that degree. I wouldn't take it to the FCS standard. You know, we're talking about a team that was the only undefeated team in college football in the regular season last year. They've been pretty darn good at Oregon. So they put up some points. I'll be wrestling with that line, I've got to admit. So coming out of the Tennessee Martin game, and more so, just what do you know of this football team, having followed them, especially through August camp?
Yeah.
What are you taking away from that performance and August camp as being, this is the path to a shocker?
Well, Mark, I can tell you that we're better, and our schedule does line us up to have a better season. There's a lot of encouragement, again, from the defensive line, the front 7. That is essentially where we spent most of our NIL dollar bills, and it was pretty evident. Wendell Gregory ties a Big 12 record in his first freshman appearance with 3 sacks. Oklahoma State in general had some things defensively that worked very well. We lived in the backfield, right? We were very disruptive. We had a lot of hurries. We did good. We had 9 TFLs. We had multiple sacks. We caused a lot of havoc. And that does give you a little bit of hope going into the Oregon game. In the back end, unfortunately, didn't get tested, right? The UTM wide receivers weren't exactly doing anything to pressure the cornerbacks and the DBs much. So we don't know precisely what we have there yet, which is, it's a little scary. And Oregon might be easily one of the top teams in the country this season. I mean, just going off of week 1, right? I said they look better than Ohio State. They look better than Bama. They look better than Miami. They look better than Notre Dame, I think. So Oregon, because, Montana State's not a slouch. Right, that's a decent.
They're
ball
not
club.
Exactly Texas, Cody.
No, well, hold on. TV timeout. Oregon.
I don't know that they look better than Ohio State or some of the other teams.
Okay. I'll give you that.
I get your point.
Then we'll say Texas. We'll say they look better than Texas. That's fair.
Okay.
And okay. So you got the stats up here again. Somewhat underwhelming. Caleb Hicks created a lot of buzz in the fall. He has a lot of talent. Big time transfer from OU. That was a very, very heralded recruit, right? Had offers from the Georgias, the Texases of the world, chose to go to OU, comes to Oklahoma State. He has all of the intangibles, all the abilities. He did seem to have a propensity in this particular game to try to bounce it outside a little bit too much. And you and I both know you're not going to be able to bounce it outside and get east to west with Oregon, right? Speed kills, and they have tons of it. I've looked at this matchup for quite some time, and there's a lot of intriguing matchups, right? I think Wendell Gregory showed us a ton. The South Carolina defensive end transfer I just mentioned. Brian McCoy had 14 tackles, very serviceable. Brandon Rawls had 11 tackles, also had a sack. McCoy had a couple tackles for loss as well. Jaleel Johnson looked very, very good. There you go. 5 tackles, maybe not completely overwhelming in the statistical categories, but we didn't need him to play the entire game. The Vanderbilt transfer, Demarion Thomas, he's a big body beast down low that can move some dudes out of the way. There is hope that this defense is going to be able to do enough and create enough chaos and get enough turnovers and be aggressive enough to at least give them a ball game, right? If it turns into an offensive track meet without Haas Haney, maybe we put ourselves in a precarious situation. But we're going to have to dial some stuff up. We're going to have to have some fun, and we're going to have to create some chaos and get some turnovers. But it is a possibility. That defense against UTM showed enough for us to be at least somewhat excited.
Did Oklahoma State and Oregon sign a home and home?
Yeah, they come to Boone Pickens next season.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there is some hope that even if things go off the rails as expected, and let's say it's a 42-10 game or whatever it is, that Oklahoma State puts together a much better team, much better season next year, and maybe they get some payback at home against Oregon. So where do you fall in the whole college football playoff narrative of, do you schedule these kind of games or don't you schedule these kind of games?
Well, I think the Big 12 is actually in a somewhat unique situation where we cannot really do anything other than schedule these games as much as physically possible. The perception of the Big 12 is always going to be what it is. It's like the little engine that could but can't quite go all the way. That seems to be the national perception of the Big 12. So we need these matchups. We needed TCU to do precisely what they did against North Carolina. We did need Baylor to take down Auburn. That one hurt the heart a little bit. Colorado beating Georgia Tech would have gone a long way. Iowa State's been able to carry a heavy load, which has been massively beneficial. But in general, I don't know, man. It's definitely a wild time. But I think the Big 12 specifically has to have these games. I don't think it's negotiable. We have to do this.
If I'm adding up these games, Cody, correctly in my head, 2 and 3, I believe, was the record against the power conferences. So we've got Utah beat UCLA.
Yeah, there was the other big one other than TCU. Yeah.
And we've got TCU beat North Carolina. Then we've got losses by Colorado against Georgia Tech. We've got the Baylor game against Auburn. We've got Cincinnati lost to Nebraska. 2 and 3. Don't know that we've got any other ones. Everybody else still has to play. Am I missing anything?
No. I
think that's it. 2 and 3. So 2 and 3 is not the end of the world.
No, it's not.
But again, Baylor, that was a big one just because Baylor is supposed to be one of the best teams in the conference, and you want the top of the conference to win the games. This weekend, we've got an interesting Kansas-Missouri game. So Kansas is roughly a touchdown underdog on the road, but just a touchdown. So that's a winnable game.
Yeah, rock chalk, baby. I think they get it done. Jalen Daniels looks like the Jalen Daniels of 2 years ago. Done?
All right. I'm going to have to think about that one a little bit, but I certainly lean Missouri, but I need to put some thought into it.
Gotcha.
Oklahoma State obviously is going to have to move a mountain to beat Oregon.
Yes.
We've got the famed Iowa State game that's featured on Fox. That would be big for the conference because we got to expect Iowa's going to go 8-4, 9-3.
Yep.
So there's 3 right there. I can't recall who Texas Tech has on the board.
Arizona State versus Mississippi State.
Yeah.
That's kind of important for perception. You cannot lose to a bottom tier team that won 2 games. You cannot do it. As a Big 12 returning champ, that would be killer, Mark. That would be killer.
Yeah. And what's really strange about that situation is, like you just said, Arizona State's obviously coming off a playoff. They're the Big 12 champion, and they're supposed to be just as good. Basically, most people had them in the running for the Big 12 championship. Mississippi State has not won a game in the SEC last season. Played a deceivingly close game against Arizona State. A lot of people get this wrong. They were getting their butts kicked by like 30-3. They did make a bit of a comeback, but they did not have a chance to win the game. But that game's in Starkville, and Mississippi State is only a 6.5-point dog in that game.
Yeah, Mississippi State's had this one scheduled for a little bit of time. Blake Shapen obviously gives Oklahoma State fans nightmares for beating us in the Big 12 title game out of nowhere. It was his first start of his career. And we're over here thinking, well, we already beat Baylor once. We're going to beat somebody making their first start. Unfortunately for Blake Shapen, his Big 12 career kind of went downward after that but this is big for him. I think offensively, you have to respect what Jet Levy does. I think Arizona State is going to get it done, but it's a scary game. It's what you would typically used to call a trap game, if you believe in that kind of terminology.
So there are still some games out there for the Big 12 to up the resume, but that is a scary one that they just need to. There's really a no-win situation there because Mississippi State, unless we are all just flabbergasted that they do anything in the SEC, is going to be a bottom feeder. And so the Big 12 just has to hold serve there. I got to think that West Virginia, I can't remember who they've got outside the conference.
They got Ohio. They got to go to Ohio, which has won 10 games 3 years in a row.
Yes.
And they return like 90% of the roster, 80% of the roster. Yeah.
West Virginia is only a 3.5 point favorite in that game. I was meaning, I cannot recall who West Virginia's got out of the power conferences.
They got Pitt after Ohio, and it's circulating that Pat McAfee says game day could be there if they beat Ohio. So there's a lot on the line for WV here.
Okay. Out of respect for the rivalry, I can see that decision being made. But in terms of looking at those two teams, I don't know why that decision would be made. Anyway, off the top of your head, Houston, who do they have to play?
Oh,
do they have a power conference opponent? Probably
Rice. I think they have Rice.
No, I think they have Rice. So they don't have anyone out of the other conferences.
They'll run away.
Yeah. So Arizona State's got to hold serve. Iowa State beating Iowa would be a big win, and
that's a can't lose, Mark. That's a can't lose. Yeah. Again, and I wanted to ask you this actually. Is it just me, or does it feel like this is the most important season for eyeballs for these games to go the Big 12's way? Right? With all the instability happening around the ACC and the Pac-12 getting bigger and flirtation of potentially Utah and Kansas, and maybe, we grab a few ACC teams. This feels like the biggest year of all time where the Big 12's on the biggest microscope. Like it's a kind of year that if we do not pull some of these games out, it's going to backfire on us in the long run. Maybe I'm just, building it up internally, but it feels like these non-con games for the Big 12 are bigger than ever, especially since Alabama already, they got rid of the West Virginia series. So I don't know that the Big 12 is going to continuously have these if we cannot capitalize this season.
Well, the reason I can also follow your line of thinking is the average college football fan, or a pretty astute college football fan, has been beaten over the head ever since the national championship game, and no games have been played with the Big Ten and the SEC. The Big Ten and the SEC, they're going to get more playoff spots automatically than anybody else because they're the best conferences. And the sport is falling in line for those two, and they're taking over the sport. The Big 12's not as good as, and so without any plays being run, it's just been beaten in everybody's head that the Big 12's inferior, the ACC's inferior, and this is what it is.
Yep.
And so for the Big 12 to come out and, again, the 2-3 performance, I think, is negligible at this point. If you're being reasonable, if you're fair, it's not great. It's not horrible. Right. Again, the Baylor win would have been nice. That would have been the one to get. But Arizona State's got to hold firm, and Iowa State has to win. Those would be the two biggest ones on deck. Yeah.
And West Virginia's got to avoid that upset. Well, you mentioned Kansas. I think that's a big one.
Yeah, that's a nice little game right there. Missouri's been 10-3, 10-3 the last 11-2, 10-3 the last 2 years. And also, I forgot about TCU's got another big matchup with especially getting pasted by SMU last year. To come back and right or wrong there would be good for the Big 12.
And Mark, I'm glad you mentioned Baylor, because I'm pretty sure with my prosthetic, I could have rushed for 50 yards against that Baylor defense. I maybe could have even just hopped through the holes and gained 20 yards without a prosthetic. That was crazy. That was absolutely crazy to see Baylor's inability to tackle a quarterback that, we all knew that could run. Right? Jackson Arnold being able to utilize his legs was not a secret, but Baylor looked lost, and Dave Arana's typically a defensive guy. And you're right, they're a pretty loaded roster. But I'll tell you what it looked almost reminiscent of Remember last year, Oklahoma State had 20 returning starters, almost 90% of our roster. Yeah, that's what Baylor has. And yeah, they need to get it clicking. They need this SMU W. All right, I'm glad that you mentioned that. It's because they have egg on the face, and the conference needs these games more than ever because, I think they mean more right now.
Cody, I'm not looking to pick a fight, but I recall when we first set up this get together a few weeks ago, because we've missed each other a few times. Somebody had pointed out to you that I forget the phrasing exactly, but basically I had some kind of asinine prediction of Oklahoma State going 4-8. And so we were
Oh,
going to
yes.
take off the
Yes.
gloves and
How
go
di-
over the Oklahoma State prospectus this year.
Yeah. Yes, no. How rude, Mark Rogers. 4 W's? Come on, man. We finally invested in NIL. Mike Gundy brought in an SEC staff. Todd Grantham brings in a bunch of dudes that been coaching with him since 2015 at multiple SEC stops: Mississippi State, Georgia, Bama, Florida. And now they bring that staff to Oklahoma State. We've been able to get a decent amount of talent acquisitionally through the transfer portal. Are we going to shock the world and win 10 plus? No, we're not probably going to do that. But I do think having 7 home games, we don't play BYU, we don't play Arizona State, we don't play TCU, we don't play WV. Not that I necessarily want to avoid those people. We don't play Utah. This is a year where Oklahoma State gets more than 4 wins. Mark Rogers, we could win more than 4 games this year with Alan Bowman back at quarterback. Come on, man.
All right. Well, we've got one in the bank.
We got one. That's right. We're undefeated. Say it with me, Mark. We are undefeated right now.
Undefeated. One of only like 60 teams in the country that are undefeated at this point, with the mighty win over the Skyhawks. That's right. All right. The Tulsa game's got to be a win. So you're going to be rolling at 2-1 minimum at that point. Roger. Minimum. Maybe there's a shocker in Autzen. Okay. Baylor at Arizona. They, I guess, are going to be awful again. I don't know. They had a big win over
actually
Hawaii. Yes.
Yeah, they look decent.
They rolled Hawaii, only gave up 6 points in that game. Houston's pretty light, so that's winnable.
So let's say we beat UT Martin, lose to Oregon, beat Tulsa. If Baylor plays the way they did the other day, and it's in Boone Pickens Stadium, I have some faith there. But let's go ahead, safe side, call it a loss. Yeah, Arizona should be a W. Houston should be a W. Cincy should be a W.
Whoa. You're just chalking these off as automatic W's.
Of course. Of course, Mark.
I'm going to say that out of at Arizona, Houston, and Cincinnati, my best guess there is 1 and 2.
What? Okay. Well, you might be right. I might just be chugging on the orange Kool-Aid a little bit too heavily at the moment.
Let's go my route, because you still may exceed 4 at this point. They would be 3 and 4 at that point, going to Lubbock.
Yeah, no, that's probably a loss.
So 3 and 5 at Kansas.
Well, I mean, I felt more confident about it. I guess we'll find out what they look like against Mizzou. I think this week's going to be a barometer for a decent number of teams in the Big 12, including us and TCU and Baylor and KU. There's some decent matchups that'll kind of put us in our place, I guess.
And let's realize that, especially in this conference, but even in all the conferences, but especially in this one, games that we are sitting and looking at right now that are happening in October, November, that seem like, oh, well, they're going to lose at Texas Tech. They're going to lose at Kansas.
Yeah.
There's going to be 8 to 10 games in the Big 12 this year that people are just writing off as automatic W's for somebody that aren't going to be automatic W's. They're going to be upsets.
I know.
So I would not be surprised if they pulled off an upset or 2. But that said, I'm at 3 and 6 after the Kansas game.
Okay.
And then I just figured that they win one other game because they go to UCF. But other than that, it's Kansas State and Iowa State. And I know those games are at home, but those are 2 of the best teams in the conference.
Well, Kansas State looks very gettable at the current moment, which is very uncharacteristic of a Chris Kleiman-led ball club. But yeah, UCF, obviously, that should be like the best W of the bunch. And then, yeah, Iowa State gets to come to Boone Pickens at the end of the season. And a lot of this is going to be contingent upon who's available, right? I've said this multiple times. If Baron Morton is healthy and available, Texas Tech at their home stadium, if they're top 25 team, right, and it's a night game, that nobody's winning that for the most part in this conference. But if Baron Morton's not healthy and they're not doing good and they're not ranked, then it changes the complexion of everything. And I do think Houston is going to be a little bit better. But again, this is another game at home where I do think that we were aggressive enough in the portal. But again, we're going to find out, right? So we can do this again after the Oregon game. Because if we get absolutely drugged through the mud and beat up 7 ways from Sunday, then maybe 4 or 5 wins is the correct line of success for the season. I just don't see how this staff and Mike Gundy cannot find a way to get at least 7, 8 wins in order for everybody to stay comfy. Because
7 or 8 wins.
I don't think the Board of Regents is gonna. I don't think the Board of Regents is gonna give Mike Gundy a big leash this year. I really don't.
I think
anything less than 6, 7 wins, Mike Gundy and the Board of Regents might be at odds.
All right. Anybody who comes after me for being off by 2 games, go at it. Have at it. I missed it. But if I pick anybody on the money or within 1 game, I'll take that.
I like it.
So if Oklahoma State gets to a bowl game at 6-6, tell me I was wrong.
Yeah, no. Mark, it is an absolute pleasure to come on. Right, you're the man, the myth, the legend. You'd be an ultimate legend if you had a mullet, but you can get there. You can get there, Mark. I have faith.
Well, hang on just a second here. I got to check things out here. Are we missing something back there with the hat and with the head straight ahead? Are we missing a mullet there, Cody?
Oh, yeah. No, my hair growing abilities cease to exist, which is why this hat is attached to my head 24/7, buddy.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. No, I did have a mullet at one point in time on your show, but then I realized that the top half is not cooperating with the bottom half.
Well, the hat's the look. The hat is the look.
I had to quit
that's what you do.
I
never looked good in a hat, and my hair's still growing, actually, so I got to get it cut every month. The one thing that I get accused of that's just dry is just hilarious that I would love to be able to disprove, but I don't know if you can like wash your hair, live on one of these shows or do something like that. But I get accused every so often of, touching up the black, and that's I get accused of that all the time. I wouldn't even know where to get that stuff. I guess you go down to Walmart and you can pick it up, but I may opt for that someday, but I'm not there yet.
Well, we used to get Nutrafol stuff, and I was so excited, and then I never used it, man. I'm just, I don't know. I've been a hat dude, which is potentially why I'm having hair growth problems, but I don't give a hoot. You could duct tape, super glue, JB weld this hat to my head, and I'd be fine with it, man.
Nice. All right, good stuff. Good to see you, Cody. And we want to encourage everyone to check out Cody's show. And a lot of Big Ten fans here, of course, you want to do it this week because we've got the Oregon-Oklahoma State matchup at Autzen. So check out Cody's work each and every day at Locked On Oklahoma State.
Yes, sir. I got to feed the orange hopium, Mark.